When I first began my spiritual journey or practice with no idea how it would end, what ending even meant. I remember being in Rudi's store and seeing the images of Nityananda, completely or almost completely naked, totally unself-conscious, big guy, somehow radiating something, but also demonstrating, especially if you saw images of him walking, some kind of arthritic pain. But he was somehow an embodiment of that and bigger than that. And I guess my image of myself in however many years from then kind of was me being obese, naked, filled with light, and being Nityananda. Well, interestingly, I'm the same weight as when I left the ashram in Bloomington almost 50 years ago. I don't parade around naked very well. I've got a little bit of arthritis. I'm not as gracious with it as Nityananda appeared to be. And I keep wondering, well, what was the end of this spiritual journey? And as I approach my 80th birthday in a few months, probably longer than Nityananda lived, I keep wondering, is there a arrival at whatever that represents? And we're all on this journey together. We're all moving toward whatever it is Nityananda represented, Rudi represented. Rudi quite dramatically used to take his shirt off when he taught. He wasn't naked, but he was corpulent and big presence and kind of in the image of Nityananda. And had he lived this full life, I can only imagine. I don't know if he would still be in his store, but he'd be somewhere and we would be walking into the room and feeling, I think, what Nityananda offered, a kind of grand, massive achievement of awareness and compassion and wholeness and humanity. And it would have been extraordinary to witness. But that didn't happen. Yesterday, Blanche and I had lunch with friends from the ashram days we haven't seen in 40 some years. It's an interesting experience. Steve Coyle, Janie Coyle, who some of you will know. Steve has been very sick with cancer and is having treatment. They have had very full lives, have two wonderful children, and we were sitting at a table together for the first time, in almost half a century. And it was really interesting because we had a lot of years to fill in terms of our conversation. And almost none of it was about the work we did, the life we'd had. And, Janie did this amazing work for 30 years in Vietnam, and Steve has been working to help build homes for the homeless and do incredibly good work in the world. And he's created what had been a daily mailing to people who wanted it of Rudi's talks and images that he would illustrate those talks with. And I would look at them every morning and feel touched. We had people over for dinner the other night, also hadn't seen them in 10, 15 years, and also on a spiritual path, a different path, but full of this vibrancy. And what we mostly talked about, other than our families, which was very central, was the spiritual journey, this continuity of process that we have been on for half of our lives or more. In our case, Blanche's, in my case, since we were in our 20s, and we're approaching 80, so 70, almost 70 some years of meditation, practice, spiritual unfolding. And it's been a remarkable, remarkable journey. But I don't see any of us at this point having arrived at the Nityananda status. I don't see any of us sitting around naked in our whatever bedrooms and having masses of people coming to sit at our feet. And I realized how that is not the journey for most of us. And the question of what is the end of the journey, where does this arrive at, has been in my mind, of course, for decades. And it's evolved into so many different things, which I've shared with you over the course of time. Part of it is, becoming one with all there is, the disappearance of the separate self, then the arrival of more of the egoism than you imagine, and then this awareness of, the real journey of life is just be a good person and a kind person. I've shared all these things with you. But one of the things Steve said to me yesterday, which radiated a kind of truth for me, because I've been feeling much of the same thing. He said, because of his cancer treatment, because of the pain of it, because of the struggles and the difficulties, and because of his purity of being, he says, you know what? I'm ready to be done. And I feel, in a funny way, exactly the same thing. I'm not at the edge that he's at, but I feel it, this sense of being done. And of course, neither of us are done. He may very well, and we expect and hope that he will be cured of this thing he's going through. I don't feel terminal exactly for any reason at all, but I feel done. And I don't know what that means or where that goes. Part of me feels maybe it means that I don't have to teach anymore, that I don't have to do this or do that, but it doesn't, but that isn't exactly what's coming up. My grandson, and I've described this to you before, sat with me on my computer where I do my photographs. And, I alter the images that I take, and there's a kind of taking a snapshot of something and then watching as you change the contrast, you bring up the underlying colors, you make it more brilliant, darker, whatever it is that the picture seems to demand you do. There comes a moment where you go, and my grandson goes, done, simple. And he is almost always right. There's something about the image that has just been brought into the space of being, in a way, beautiful. That there's nothing more to do to it. You don't need to add to it. You don't need to subtract. You just go, done. And there's something about life that's not dissimilar. Excuse me. There are perhaps moments, I haven't had moments, but I definitely am having one, that feels done. And yet here I am, here I am. There's another day coming. We're going to buy a Christmas tree today. The grandkids are going to come over. We're going to decorate the tree. Blanche is worried about the dead leaves falling off, this is our 50-year history of that. We are We want to be together. We want to have a meal together. We just want to share. So where's done in this? It's another Christmas tree, another year, another possibility of celebration. We'll have Hanukkah. We're very ecumenical. We're going to celebrate a lot. And so there's something to be said for the word done. And then perhaps the other word comes next. When I finish a photograph, when Eli sits with me and does the photograph and we go done, we get another photograph and we start all over. And we wait for it to find its fullness, its wholeness, its completion. And when we find it, there's a sense of done. Being alive is joyful, full, awesome, amazing, and it's also painful, dramatic, scary. It has all of these extraordinary elements in it, and we're all these biological forms, meaning that we're temporary forms. And the word done really does arrive for every human being. Some people don't say it. Some people just go, I'm not ready. Not yet. No, not me. All of those kinds of reactions to something that is inevitable, must happen, will happen, and for which your life journey prepares you. And either it prepares you well for arriving at finality or terminality, or it doesn't. But there's definitely an element of practice in all of this. And one of those elements of practice for me is making photographs and playing with them and being done, and then going, okay, next one. In life, I wake up in the day and I go, in a way, I'm done, but the day is not done. And it arises and more energy comes and more dynamic and more elements of activity and involvement. And I engage it again and try to make another beautiful image, if you will, photograph or artwork or whatever you want to call it, of the day. And it's an exquisite experience. Every day is exquisite. I have to say, when I sit with a photograph, I can see if it may go into light and colorful and beautiful, and some of them go into very dark and very shaded and very hard to look at on some level, but reflective of something very real. And for me, this is always very powerful because I don't know which is the better version of the photograph. Should it be really uplifting, and should it be very, very informatively dark? And I find it. I just find it. And when I do, I have days like that. I have days that are uplifting and brilliant and beautiful. And when I get into bed at night, I go, thank you, done, go to sleep. I have days that are really struggle and really physical pain, emotional, psychological, worldly sort of disturbance for me. I don't find myself able to disconnect from the universe we live in. So I take it all in and I try to bring it to some kind of finality before I go to bed. And then there's a done. Blanche and I walked into a store the other day. She wanted to buy a ring, and they had, for some reason, a Buddha, standing Buddha, warrior kind of Buddha, wooden carved somewhere in Bali, I think. I wouldn't call it a great work of art, but it was a stunningly available piece. And I said, I want that. And I got it. And I brought it home and I put it next to my bed. And when I go to bed at night and when I wake up in the morning now, there is this warrior just standing there, just going, yep, yep. And I go, yep. And I go into the day. I know that we're in a very interesting and difficult time, and that the world has a lot of dark dynamic at play, and we are all in it. Whether we're involved in it or not is completely dependent upon your personality, your ego, your mind, and all of that. But a lot of people pretty universally right now are a bit overwhelmed maybe by the magnitude of confusion, darkness, uncertainty that the world represents right now. And it's very easy, at least it is for me, to get caught in that. I keep bringing myself back to my practice. I keep trying to take a breath. I keep trying to be an observer of this rather than an engager of it, but I fail. And then I come back, and now when I turn off my light at night and I look at the warrior, I go, okay, made it through that one. And I go back, I go to sleep. But the great thing about a spiritual life is that you have this ability to meet the creative opportunity that every day represents and to go to bed at night going done. And that reflects into your entire life. Day by day by day, you have all of these forms happening, and you have these little mini done, and then you begin to ride out this thing to a point where you go, huh, the whole thing, the entire ride, the entire life that you've had is coming to a point of being done. There will be no more arising with you as the central character. There will just be the done. And either you will be prepared for that in some eloquent way, or you won't. It's kind of up to you on some level, up to your personality, your being, your whoever it is you are. Rudi gave us a work to help prepare us for that infinite departure. I say infinite because I sense it as being eternal and vast beyond anything that this lifetime represents. It's just this moving into what is in a way that no longer contains us as a separate entity. And when you move into the what is without you as a separate entity, let me just tell you, you are done. Whether you understand it, whether you recognize it, whether you accept it or don't, it doesn't matter. You're done. So the artist in me, which, I kind of get it from writing a movie. I loved typing the end. I loved it. It felt so good. It felt so completed. I love finishing a photograph. It feels done. And when I spoke to Steve yesterday and his dealing with his cancer, and he expressed to me that he feels done, meaning open to the finality of all of this. And I realize how I kind of walk around with that every day, this doneness. It doesn't mean you're dead. It doesn't mean that you are, about to depart the world of finite being. It just means you are whole and complete as you are. You have done the best version of you up to that moment, whatever that is. And somewhere along the way, if you're going to be an artist of your own life, being done regularly, and then moving on to the next doneness, and the next doneness is an extraordinary thing. I look at someone like Nityananda, who arrived at that state early. He was done. Took off his clothes. He just sat there with a massive, massive energy, a heart that filled time and space. And he just basked in the love that he was receiving, and he sent back tons beyond our comprehension back into the world. And he just fed people and fed people and fed people with the magnitude of his love, kindness, goodness, presence, consciousness, awareness, compassion. All of that just flowed out to people. Rudi met him for one day, and came back and changed my life and many, many lives. And I think they continue to be changed from that one moment. Nityananda, at somewhere midway through his life, was done. His personal journey was done. He was now just a flower emitting the most beautiful aroma possible. In a way, None of us have to take our clothes off. None of us have to be that size. We don't have to arrive at that stillness where you just sit and people come and gather. You just have to be you. And in that sense, you just have to be you and be loving, kind, good, available, compassionate, understanding, aware, all of those things, and offer that to anyone and everything that arises in your life. And every day that you do that, you will experience, maybe just at the end of the day, or maybe all during the day, done, 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 done. It's so completing. It's so fulfilling. And so this journey of spiritual work that we're on may not lead us to a Nityananda moment or something that's as visible as that. It will lead us to whatever it wants to take us to. And if you are open and wise and aware of the world and how it's working, you will see that it is really intelligent and it really knows what to do with you. Even if it seems awkward and out of kilter and not the way you would have done it, it's doing what it needs to do, and you are a vehicle of its expression. And all you have to do is show up, do the best version of it you can, and at any point during the day or any point before you go to bed or whenever the time is, go, done. Be prepared. Be prepared for the done moment to moment, and be prepared for the done of your life. I've often referenced our friend Barbara Boster, who was dying of cancer when we were living in Seattle, and we would go visit her. And then there was the last visit. And she had been a student of Rudi's, one of the really wonderful people on the planet. And we were walking out of her room for the very last time. And what do you say at the very last moment when you're seeing someone and you will never see them again? And usually it's kind of wordless, but she gave it a word. She went, toodaloo. And it was like the lights went on. Nityananda was sitting there, sending blessings and love and goodness and kindness. It was so simple, so not dramatic, so done and perfect. And I live with that. I live with the perfection of that gift. And she was a student of Rudi's who found her way to that moment. And we are all students of Rudi's, if you will, or Nityananda, or whatever name you want to give it, Buddha, Krishna, you can, Jesus, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is you find your way into a place of wholeness and doneness over and over and over. And even though you feel done, you wake up the next morning and there's another opportunity to be done again, over and over and over. Try to live that life. Try to see where that life takes you. Watch it, be gentle, be graceful, be loving, be kind, and it will be such an extraordinary journey for you and for all the people around you, because you will have brought light into their lives and love into their lives and consciousness and attention and all of those things. And that's what makes a Nityananda in the world. So thank you for listening. Toodaloo, unless you have questions. And I don't know what questions you may have, but I'm happy to answer anything I can answer. Okay, all said and done. I'm going to, just because I'm not going to see you before Christmas or New Year's, I'm going to wish you all a truly wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, happy all the things that are unfolding over this period of time. There's a lot of love pouring out, and it's all yours, and drink it in as much as you can. So there will be a class, a New York class next Sunday, and you can all tune in. And then again, starting in the new year. So welcome to 2023. And it'll be an interesting ride. And if we fill it with love, it'll be a much easier ride than if we fill it with all the other stuff people can bring to the table. So open your heart, fill the day, be aware, be conscious, be good, and have a great new year.
Thanks for the white Christmas.
Yeah, I haven't looked out the window. It's getting whiter a little bit.
Bruce, can I
Thanks,
share?
Bruce.
Can I share a quote with you that I
Yes,
sent to my daughter because it was her 50th birthday yesterday?
Hmm.
It's a quote is, as you get older, it's like climbing a mountain. You get a bit out of breath, but the view is much better. I just really resonated.
yeah, beautiful. That's beautiful.
That was by Ingrid Bergman, by the way.
Oh, really? Really? Well, it's good that Tara's quoting Ingrid Bergman. They're very similar in some ways. Yeah, yeah. Luckily, I remembered it was her birthday yesterday. I didn't know it was her 50th, but I was able to send her a greeting. I love her so much. And much love to you, George, Cheryl, Daniel, everybody else. All of you.